The European continent is a massive landmass of 27.3 million square kilometers if we were to add the former USSR nations to this number. There are also 50 countries in Europe. After years of wars and conflict, Europeans increasingly came together along linguistic lines to form different nations. Most of these nations were formed in the 19th century. Even in the 20th century, countries were still being created in Europe, with the last country to be created being Kosovo, which was established in 2008. The European Union was created on the 1st of November 1993 to foster greater economic and political ties between many European countries. They created the euros as a common currency between them, although Great Britain left the European Union in 2020 to stem the immigration into their country and to enjoy greater national sovereignty. The chief reasons European countries have chosen to band together and work together is that Europe has suffered centuries of endless and needless wars. The First World War was regarded as the war that should end all wars. Unfortunately, that war only precipitated another great war in September 1939, when Hitler's Germany invaded Poland. Great Britain, France, and Russia formed an alliance to fight Hitler. The war was eventually brought to an end in September 1945. Some commentators have suggested that the media have been some of the chief architects of these wars. With the increasing demand for news and the proliferation of media houses, the tendency for stories which in former times would have been killed to make it to the public increases more and more. Besides, there are political thinkers and eggheads who continue to stoke public opinions with negative news, such as to create the mass hysteria that could foment hate and aggression and eventually wars. When one nation feels it has been subdued by another, the former sees the need to take up arms against the other. Media houses also realize that negative, sensational, and bad news are the items that sell newspapers. So, front-page headlines have become the holy grail of news broadcasts, and this becomes even worse when you discover that these front-page headlines make it out every morning. Today, with the coming of the social media, front-page headlines are giving place to viral news items which could pop up anytime during the day. And on Nations and News broadcasts is an important introduction to the subject of religion, as our channel wishes to be known. When the apostles of Jesus sought a name for the message that Christ gave them to broadcast to the world concerning his redeeming work and saving grace, they chose the word gospel. The gospel is actually euangelion in Greek. It means good news or glad tidings. Euangelion was a word that was already in daily use by the Romans and Greeks in the 1st century when they wished to describe a joyful event like a military victory, the birth of the heir to a king, or public proclamations of success or celebrations. It is from that word that the Christian church gleaned the word evangelical and gospel. We see, therefore, that while the world's media is concerned with propagating sensational, negative, and at times bad news so that they can make money, the Christian church is concerned with propagating good news, which unfortunately makes practically no money. But news, whether it is good or bad, forms the basic structure on which public opinion is formed. Public opinion is what informs what public policies will be. They create the laws that societies are built on. They form governmental structures, and they determine the direction that society will go. While the world media might center their broadcast on negativity and sensationalism, we at Text and Publishing Religion are convinced that public opinion and policies can equally be formed by the positive truths of the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is why in today's broadcast, we shall be examining a few important subjects. We'll be looking at the pronouncements of a man called Mike Arnold. a Christian man himself, and we shall be examining some of his pronouncements to see how they could inform the public on the direction that she should take, while at the same time equipping people with positive knowledge to make informed decisions. Equally, in today's broadcast, we shall be looking at the tragic killing of a young man in Delta State, and we will try to show how his death is a testimony to the need for general reforms in our public institutions, particularly the police. We will have a guest in the studio to speak to us on this subject. At the end of today's broadcast, we hope that our viewers can appreciate the fact that the direction that our society must take should not always be dictated by negative events and news. While negative news will continue to sell papers, we are convinced that positive news like the gospel of Jesus Christ can be a propelling force for societal change. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining Text and Publishing Religion. My name is Deji Yusufu, and I'm going to be your host for this evening's broadcast. Like the introduction have said, we're going to be looking at a video by Mr. Mike Arnold, and we'll also be having a guest joining us at about 6:30 to talk to us about his experience with police brutality. Okay, so in a video that was broadcasted on, or that was published on Mike Arnold's video or Facebook channel, I saw some things. He said some things that were very relevant to Nigeria. He also said some things that sounded conflicting, and that's the reason why I felt, look, I have to share that video. Okay, so yeah, so we have Mike Arnold back. So we're gonna just listen to him and more or less correct a lot of the things that he says there, while at the same time affirm a few things that he's saying. Okay, and then after that, hope to have our guest on. Okay, so now Mike Arnold made it to the Nigerian public space in a sense. He's always been involved in Nigeria, but he made it to our public space, or at least to my own attention, when he had a public spat with Reno Mokri, who is the present ambassador to the nation of Mexico, present Nigerian ambassador to Mexico. And he had invited Mike Arnold over to Nigeria to speak positive, I mean, basically to observe things and also to go back to the United States and report back to the Trump administration. Arnold is an independent individual. He doesn't work for either the Nigerian government or even the United States government. So a lot of things that he says, he can say things without sounding politically correct. And in that video that he did with Reno Mokri, he practically embarrassed me, Reno Mokri, because Mokri was hoping that Arnold, being an American and also white, would come to say what the narrative he wanted to him to propagate, and that is that there was no genocide against Christians. But Arnold said the other. He more or less embarrassed him and all of that. So that was what happened. That's how he came to my attention. And since then, he has actually, taken his campaign on the issue of Christian genocide to a high level. And this, what we're going to about to watch now, is a presentation he made in the United States. I'm not sure where exactly, but he made this presentation and he tried to argue uh, for the situation in Nigeria. Now, why I find this video very interesting was that in 12 minutes, this man summarized the problem of his country. So just listen to him. Now, before he comes to the history, what he has just said here is very, very true. Nigeria is more or less is a country of 36 states, 35 states, one federal capital. Um, but the country can actually be largely divided between the north and the south. The dominantly Muslim north, and the predominantly Christian south. That's the way the country can be described. And what he's saying is very true. He also talked about the fact that Nigerians are about the most successful people groups in the United States, very educated, very wealthy, and that is very true. But what he didn't mention was that many of the Nigerians who go on to the United States and even outside the country to do very well are from the southern parts of the country. People in the north usually don't travel that much, and even if they are going to travel, they go to Muslim-dominated countries or so on. And then he also mentioned the fact that northern Nigeria is becoming increasingly Sharia compliant. Many of the states are adopting Sharia as law, and that, in a sense, has a significance. But he's going to now go to how the northern parts, because northern Nigeria was not originally Muslim. Okay, how Islam came to northern Nigeria. Hear him. Now, this is true, but in a sense, there's also some error. The truth about it was that, yes, Danfodio waged a jihad to establish Islam in northern Nigeria. That's true. In our sister channel, Text and Publishing History, we have published a video on Amadu Bello. And while we're studying, in fact, while telling that story, we're able to show how in 1903, the British came and they conquered the, the Sokoto Caliphate. In fact, they not only conquered it, they killed the people there and destroyed the whole thing. Okay, and they brought it under subjection. All right. But what the British did, and then the Northerners were at that time, even though they were conquered, they were afraid, and they were thinking that the British were going to bring the Christian religion to their region. But the British told them that they were not interested in bringing Christianity to northern Nigeria. What they were interested in was in commerce. Okay, they wanted land, they wanted to use the land, they wanted to grow crops, and have a place where they can export and make money, help develop the North and so on and so forth. That's what they wanted to do. Now, Christian missionaries came to northern Nigeria also at about that time. But the British insisted that the missionaries must not evangelize the Northerners. Why? Because there was some kind of gentleman agreement between the Northerners and the British that Christianity was not going to be introduced to the North. That's why till today, the North still remains predominantly Muslim. Okay. Yeah, there were missions in the North. They continued, but at the same time, the British curtailed their activities. In the South, the British did not. The British gave the missionaries free hand. And so there were schools, there were hospitals, there were all kinds of things. And this led to the situation where the southern part of Nigeria became, Christian and then educated and then even a lot more advanced than the North, so that we was beginning to seek independence. It was the people from the South that championed it the most. The North were a little more laid back, they were not so keen on the idea. In fact, that is what eventually led to the British ensuring that it was the North that took power after they had left. But let's hear more about what Arnold is saying. Now, this is not exactly in the South. What we had was that we have the West and we have the East. In the West, it's predominantly Yoruba. In the East, predominantly Igbo. Okay. At the Civil War, the western part of Nigeria teamed up with the North against the East. The political reasons or the reasons why that was done, you have to check text and publishing history to find out that we've done a 5-part series on Awolowo. Check out our part 3, which we're going to still talk about in this. That was what led to it. We can start to talk about the Civil War, but the South was not fighting the North. It was the East that was against the North and the Southwest. Over to Mike Arnold. This is true. Now, that point he made about the Constitution, I've not taken the time to count up the amount of time that Sharia is mentioned in the Nigerian Constitution. But it is true that there is a part of the Nigerian Constitution that is committed to Sharia and discussing Sharia. And I think the reason is because the Constitution itself is designed after Western government, and Western government are already assumed to be Christian. Okay, so they had to give some space to Sharia, which a lot of northern states or northerners have a lot of sympathy for. So I think that's what led to the mention of Sharia. But many people have continued to insist and say that if Nigeria is a secular state, then we should not be allowing for Sharia in our constitution. I am neither for or against it, even though I think I see the argument of many Christians. Muslims tend to be quite domineering, and when they take a space, they take over. So the moment you allow Sharia in a country's constitution, there's a sense that you may actually be permitting for them to to take over the whole constitution, because Sharia is law, and it is actually a political document, okay, which can at the end of the day find itself at variance with the constitution of a country. Let's hear Mike Arnold. Now, his mention of Goodluck Jonathan here uh, actually now helps us to appreciate where he may have been getting some of his information from. Now, Goodluck Jonathan was removed from government in 2015. He lost to President Muhammadu Buhari.
Jonathan did not lose because people were open to the idea of a Muslim North or a Sharia compliant country. Jonathan lost mainly because his government was not competent, and he had allowed for corruption to take roots in the country. There's so many forces against Jonathan we can't even begin to mention now. But when he speaks to, I mean, one can understand when he speaks to a white man, he will be talking from his own side and explaining the things and the reason why he think he was removed from government, which is true. There are some things that were done. Americans came in. The whole idea of there was a lot of gang up. But and even the whole these Chibok girls that were captured was also part of it. But that was not the main issue. The main reason why Jonathan was removed from government was because the man was not competent. Let's hear Arnold. Now, this is very true. Unfortunately, some people come to social media and they begin to talk about how the American government created ISIS, how the American government has been supporting Boko Haram, and so on. Many times they forget or they do not realize that America and the whole of Europe is actually divided. Their political systems are divided between two main ideologies. Those ideologies could be on the right or on the left. The right are usually or predominantly conservative. They are Christian. They tend to be very historical. They tend to be very conservative. They can be progressive also, and they do employ some socialist ideas, but the right in the West are predominantly conservative. On the left, you have people who are progressive. Okay. Now there's nothing wrong with progressivism. The only challenge is that progressivism is just like the name connotes, it progresses. The point now gets to, I mean, one now begins to ask, at what point do you stop progressing? Because what has happened with the left is that many people who originally were in the left have now joined the right. Somebody like Donald Trump was Democrat all his life. He voted for the Democratic Party, but at some point he had to shift to the right because the left were becoming two lefts. Okay, so the lefts have now gotten to the point now that they are adopting ideas that are increasingly nonsensical. Okay, they all this LGBTQ thing, all this homosexuality thing, and everything. They are becoming increasingly now. Barack Obama is a Democratic Party person. Is the left. Okay, a lot of the people in his government then were on the left. The left are anti-conservative. They are anti-religion. Okay, and so anywhere you find the left, they tend to be against Christianity, not Islam, against Christianity. Now, because Christianity and Islam have had a long history of rivalry, okay, when the left stepped into that argument, they tend to now back Islam. So that is why people in the Barack Obama government, including Obama himself, ended up supporting groups like Boko Haram and ISIS and so on, because ideologically they are linked to each other. They are supporting of each other. Okay, so while Obama was supporting these people, so I mean, we do not know how much he did support them. You know, they got to the point where they were selling. I mean, they were refused to sell weapons to Nigeria. Okay, during the Goodluck Jonathan administration, and they did everything to ensure that Jonathan was removed from office. That is what Arnold is talking about here. Okay, at this point, I'm going to have to stop this. I noticed the video has stopped, even though I believe we can see here, but I'm going to just stop sharing and then play the video again so that we can. So just give me a moment to play the video again. For some reason, the video stopped playing. So I will. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Just 1 minute. I'll get it back up. I want a situation where we can actually see the video. Okay.
The no bid $13 billion in projects. This is Trump's senior advisor. He's also Tiffany Trump's father-in-law. Examples of ongoing failures and impunity. Ingoshe, Borno State, wiped out in the Gwoza massacre of 2014. The government recently assured refugees in Cameroon it was safe for them to return, paid them to return. Within weeks, on March 3rd, Boko Haram slaughtered dozens. More than 300 abducted into slavery, including the wife and daughter of a friend of mine. The military was largely AWOL. The attacks continue there. Deborah Samuel Yakubu, 2022, college student. After finals, she posted on WhatsApp, "Jesus is the greatest. He helped me pass my exams." The next day on campus, as professors and police watched, she was beaten, stoned, tires heaped on her, and burned alive, while students filmed selfies in front of the flames, celebrating. The deputy imam of the National Mosque, who performed President Buhari's daughter's wedding, publicly justified the killing within 24 hours on his own Twitter account. No one was punished. Nnamdi Kanu, British Nigerian broadcaster from London, illegally abducted from Kenya, tried under a defunct law, now serving life in Sokoto prison for words spoken in Great Britain. Meanwhile, the northern imam just recently offered a 1 million naira bounty for the head of a pastor, then doubled to taunt his critics. No charges, no condemnation from officials. I've been corresponding with the guy. He helped him get to a safe house, but he and his family are in danger and they need help. The Nigerian government goes to great expense to rehabilitate the killers, while millions of innocent displaced victims are denied, neglected, and dying. The narrative war. The farmer herder and climate change framing started in the Obama State Department. The original reference document was written by a career Sharia propagandist hired by George Soros.
Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to we're going to go back to Mike Arnold. A lot of things he's saying is very true, even though I think he mixed up some things. Nnamdi Kanu has a lot of baggages, and even though I personally do not think that it is right to have placed him or put him in Sokoto, I think he could have been placed in the southwest or in Abuja, but putting him in Sokoto is just, I think, unnecessarily endangering his life, but he was rightly prosecuted and also rightly said he broke the laws of this country. His organization led to the killing of so many people. Now we have Dr. Anegbe with us, and he's going to be joining us in a moment to talk about police brutality. Dr. Anegbe, thank you very much for joining Text and Publishing, Religion. Can you hear
Thank you
me,
very
sir?
much for having me. Yeah, I can clearly. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you. Now, Dr. Anegbe is a medical doctor who lived and I believe worked also in Warri, Delta State. So he has an idea of things, of how things work in Delta State. Now, on his Facebook page, he published a video where he was just talking about his experience. And I had to just get in touch with him and said, look, this experience will come and also share it with me because it's firsthand. This is somebody who has been on ground and who saw how things are. Okay, so Dr. Negbe, what has led us to this discussion was the killing of the 28-year-old young man in Warri, Delta State. And I just essentially said, look, come and talk to us about the situation. What do you know about What, or in a sense, tell us what the situation is with worry and police brutality and so on, as much as you know. Then I'll come back to with questions.
Okay, thank you very much for having me here. I'm excited to be in this podcast. Actually, this is my first podcast ever, so I'll be a
Thank
little bit nervous. So I hope you guys
you.
understand
No,
me and understand me.
no
Thank you
problem.
very much.
No
So
problem.
I actually lived all my life in Warri, and like I made in my video, Warri used to be. Can you hear me?
I can. I can. I'm
Can
trying
you
to
hear me?
bring
Can
up
you hear
that
me?
picture. I can. I can.
Okay.
I'm trying to bring up
Yes.
that picture.
So, as I was saying, Warri used to be a very exciting city to live in. I think during my teenage age, Warri was a marvelous place to stay. Most of the kids in Warri, we've always seen Warri as a city that we want to live all our life in. But fortunately, over the years, at a point, police got out of hand. Initially, the idea was to, okay, let me give you a brief history about what happened in Warri, okay?
Okay.
Actually, the trajectory in Warri changed after the different crises that happened between the year 1999 to 2003. So, naturally, when crisis occurs, there is usually presence of military personnel, okay, and law enforcement agencies. So it's natural. So over the years, these guys initially the intention was to maintain peace in the city. This now progressed from maintaining peace in the city into full-blown extortion, extrajudicial killing, and so started happening within the city. So, and that to a very large extent affected the city. It came to a point where you can't move freely in Warri when it comes from 6 p.m. From 6 p.m. The fear then moved from just being moved from just robbery attack to you facing police. You can just be moving
Mm.
along the streets and they'll just pick you up. When you just freezing, the next thing you see, you're inside the cell and you have to be yourself. You can be in your compound, just walk out. Then those that live those that live in public compound face me and face you. You can just go out to take your bath and you get arrested. And to a very large extent, that affected the whole city completely. And now at night, Warri is like a ghost town, and the city has never recovered since then. Sometimes these guys they claim that they are after what do they call these guys? Yahoo guys, the foster.
Yahoo. Yes. Mm.
Yes. So that they claim that they're after the foster. Them going after the foster most of the time is not actually to arrest the foster, it's to extort them.
Mm. Yeah.
Just by your mere look, maybe you just no, not about like me now. I remember before I moved to I'm currently based in Ibadan. Before I moved to Ibadan, when I was a lot younger, I can count the number of times I was harassed by the Nigeria police force.
Wow.
When I was in final year in medical school, I was arrested. I slept inside the police cell
Wow.
for no just reason. I actually showed them my ID card, my medical school ID card. They seized it, and I was arrested. That's to show you how bad it is. Those guys, they just work without control. For now, yes, it
Okay.
has improved. Any question?
Yeah, the question that has come to my mind now is that, yeah, well, those of us in the Southwest here, when we hear worry, you hear area, you hear things. I actually lived in Warri once. I came to visit my uncle who was working with the oil company in 2001, I believe. And even as of that time, there was this energy about the city, about the town. Warri guys were, they were wise. I remember my uncle was saying that he was speaking to a young girl of about 3 or 4, 5 years old, and he said something to her, and she just turned to him and said, "Winchi, they worry you." they, they seem to be wiser than their this thing, They are, and then I think there's also that tendency towards the young men themselves also giving to crime and all of that. Is that the reason why the police tend to be a little aggressive with them, unlike what we have here in Ibadan?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
People have a wrong perception about the city of Warri. On the average, an average Warri guy is someone that loves to have fun. They love to be funny, and they have this perception that they are smart. That's an average Wafrian. Being smart does not necessarily equate to being someone that's involved in crime. It's different. Another guy believe that you cannot
Mm.
outsmart them. You understand? They argue that you cannot outsmart them. That's something about Warri. So the idea of the increase in crime, yes, there's crime all over the country. But what is certain is that most of these police guys, they see Warri as a place to extort. Look at it. Okay, let me give you an instance. Warri is a city that somehow is a city on its own. You barely hear of what happens in Warri. I can tell you for a fact. If you go through the news, you barely see Warri in Nigeria news, except during the crisis. It's a city on its own. So those guys, I believe those military personnel, they assumed that since nothing comes out from the city, they can do what they like and nothing happens. See, I can tell you, if you've ever stayed with someone from Warri, you will understand that naturally they are fun-loving, they are jovial, they play, they laugh and everything. But the idea of crime, robbery, is not so common among an average Rwafarian. I can tell you for a fact.
Now, if you look at that video, Doctor, if you look at that video, the young man is pleading for his life. I'm not sure what even led. I don't know whether you know what led to he's being handcuffed and all of that. But he's pleading for his life. And this guy cocks the gun, he puts the magazine, cocks the gun, arranges the gun, and summarily executes the young man. His blood is dripping, they carry him, put him in the car. What I saw there was, number one, this is what they do normally. That's what I saw. That the only difference was that this time around, it was picked by camera. Now, I also suspect that cameras have been picking things like this, like you say, these stories happen, but this one just happened to have just made it out of the city. So the question I'm asking is, what could have made a policeman cock his gun and shoot not just unarmed, his hands were tied, shoot him point blank? What could have led to it?
Okay. As regard to this video, I think I'm not too sure, but from feelers I've had from friends, and so what happened was this guy came to pick a parcel. What he said, okay. And when he got to the park, usually this parcel they send drivers to deliver from one city to another city.
Yeah.
So when he got to the park, it's like the drivers they open the parcel and they saw that the parcel contains a gun. So, of which the Road Transport Worker Union, they were the ones that actually appointed this guy and informed the police.
Oh.
Yes. So when the police came, I think that was what happened was what we saw on the video.
And then the next thing, of course, is to shoot somebody.
As regards to the extrajudicial, as regards to this event we are calling in Warri, yes, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. But what happened is before now, some years back, when crime rate in Warri has increased after the crisis.
Yes.
What happened there was this joint task force, GTL, that was created by the governor then.
Okay.
If an armed robber is caught, okay, most of the time they kill them at the spot.
Oh.
It happened some years back. So the whole city celebrated such action. Then, more like sometimes some of these guys, when they are being arrested by the police, in less than 24 hours, they will release them.
They will release them, yes.
So
hello, doctor.
Okay, when they saw that, when they are caught.
All right. It appears we lost him for a moment, but I'm sure he will be back. So we have Dr. Anegbe coming to talk to us about the situation in Warri. And I'm trying to, reason in my mind what exactly could have led to policemen shooting an unarmed person. But he's making the point now that years back, or some years before now, what has happened was that the state governor had actually given the police the freedom to kill robbers. So I think that was not it.
No. The state government did not give them freedom to kill. I think what happened then was, I think probably is from the police chiefs or the joint task force then contains the Navy, the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Police, and so.
Yes.
So the crime rate, I won't lie to you, the crime rate then was very high. And it's like most of those guys, they have they have people within the aim of affair that support them. So sometimes when they are arrested in less than 24 hours, they usually released. So what happened there was the police, when they are caught, when they join trials for court, they kill them immediately. That was what happened initially. That was many years ago. That was many years ago. So I think some of these police, some of these police officers, they have this hero mindset then. But as for this guy, the difference between this and what has happened previously, I'm not trying to justify something like this. The difference between this and then was that this guy that was handcuffed, he was ready to confess. He was ready to lead them to the person that sent to get the parcel.
Yes.
And this officer just killed him.
All right.
And the fact here is that we are no longer in the old age. Everything has changed. We are not in the digitalized world. So you can't just kill people just like that. But previously, it happened in the past. I won't lie to you. Yes, it happened many years in the past, but not anymore.
Oh, all right. Okay. Thank you very much, Doctor. He's been a resident of Warri before. He lives now in Ibadan, and he's just basically come to explain to us what could have led to this claim. Thank you, Dr. Anegbe, for being our guest. I hope next time we'll reach out to you. You'll be able to honor our invitation. Really appreciate your greetings to your family, and bye-bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Yes. All right, so we're going to go back to Mike Arnold at this moment to see what the young man is saying. For those of you, just before I had Dr. Anegbe on, we're looking at Mike Arnold and some things he was sharing. And I feel that we should conclude that discussion. And then after that, we're going to try to draw out some lessons from what he said. Okay, so over to Mike Arnold now.
At least $10 million confirmed U.S. lobbying contracts are now running. Former Trump administration officials, Nigerian government lobbyists, northern imams, foreign agents, conflicted advisors, and now even Russian state television are among those working to shield this regime from accountability. The real narrative is this. Nigeria is in the throes of an Islamic conquest. Since 2009, they have slaughtered as many as 125,000 Christians and 60,000 Muslims. This is not simply a religious freedom issue. This is national and global security. The emergency, as many as 10 to 12 million, mostly youth, are now displaced. 50-60% chance of radicalization by 2030 without intervention. Most are denied by the government, who call them beggars and criminals. Without intervention, this could yield 5 to 6 million more jihadists over the next 5 to 6 years. Intervention is not hard. The international community has the money and the mandate to help if the displaced are simply recognized. In 2015, the UNHCR documented multiple displacement camps in Abuja. Today, they deny those camps exist. I have run schools in those same camps since 2020. They do exist. I affirm the cycle of violence is not inborn or inevitable. A lot of Americans write it off. Oh, that's just what they do. Yes, the children who saw their parents hacked to death often come to our schools wanting to go back and get revenge, but I can tell you with an education, they gain character, hope, and vision, and they want to go back to rebuild. What must happen? Nigeria has long been strangled by radical Islamists, predatory extraction, globalist meddling, and institutional corruption. Working with the Nigerian government to end the genocide is like working with the Third Reich to end the Holocaust.
Now, I'm going to stop here and comment on that. Working with the Nigerian government to end the genocide is like working with the Third Reich to end the Holocaust. Now, those people who may not be very conversant with history might not know what this is he's talking about. But the Third Reich was the way Hitler, his government, was described. The name of his government was called the Third Reich. Okay, and what they propagated was that they killed a lot of Jews all around. The killing of Jews was what was regarded as the Holocaust. Now you can imagine going to Germany of those days and working with the German officials to end the Holocaust. They are the ones perpetuating it. So what he's basically saying is that there's a sense that the Nigerian government is behind the crisis in northern Nigeria. I don't totally agree with that, even though there is a sense that there are some truths in it. Okay, where I do not agree is that the truth of the matter is that in this genocide, in these killings in northern Nigeria, both Christians and Muslims have been killed. Okay, Christians are killed because the jihadists, the militants, see Christians as enemies. Okay, they believe that their Quran teaches for the destruction of all Christians. All right, that's on one hand. Now, Muslims are also killed because a lot of Muslims do not subscribe to the extremist ideologies of Boko Haram. In fact, what happens in Islam, Islam generally, is that Islam does not permit for sects. Islam does not believe in denominations like Nigeria, like Christians have. Christians have denomination. You have Roman Catholics, you have Protestants. Within Protestantism, you have all kinds of Christian denominations. Islam does not allow that. Okay? When a Muslim group moves into a society, into a community, they dominate. Okay, and they insist that it is their own kind of Islam that must thrive. Anybody that is against it is destroyed. Even if there's somebody, people come up from within them and begin to espouse another kind of Islam, okay, they would kill, they will ensure those people are destroyed. That is why when ISWAP moved into Nigeria, the first person they targeted was was Shekau, Abubakar Shekau, who was the head of Boko Haram. They had to kill him because their own kind of radical Islam was a little different from Shekau's radical Islam, and both of them could not coexist. So Islam does not believe in that. So they will, when these extremists come, they will kill Christians, they will kill Muslims for that reason. Okay, so that's good. So on that, he is correct. Where I feel he may be a little how will I call it, exaggerating is that, to be sincere to the government, the Nigerian government has committed a lot of money and resources to fighting insurgency in this, and they have been sincere about it. I'm not sure about about the motives of Muhammadu Buhari. I'm not sure, but this Tinubu government, I know they have been sincere and they have been committed. The only problem is that Nigeria has a general problem with its civil service. General problem. Anything that is public, anything that is government and is run as a public service, Nigerians tend to have a half-heartedness with which they carry out the work there. And that is what is affecting not just the military, but every part of public service in Nigeria. So let's hear what Arnold says. Probably let's conclude his discussion.
They smile and spin as they wait for Trump to leave office. Since CPC designation, killing and impunity have only gotten worse. Sanctions will not work. Visa bans will not work. They're ideologues, and they'll just pivot east. Intentional denial of recognition and aid to displaced people, intentional denial of recognition and aid in this circumstance meets the legal standard of genocide. This is provable. Indict the Tinubu administration. Arrest them. They're guilty of genocide. And it's provable. Conduct a valid census and evidentiary briefing of the displaced. They are our witnesses to genocide and they need help. Investigate the Sultan of Sokoto as a terror sponsor. Circumstantial evidence demands it. We know where the militant camps are. Wipe them out. Bring the enablers to justice. Demand the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and other prisoners of conscience. Offer asylum protection to them and others threatened by this regime. Ensure a free election in 2027. It can be done for the cost of a Tomahawk missile volley. Tinubu was declared the winner with less than 9 million votes in a nation of 230 million. A free election changes everything. Let the people vote on a new constitution and self-determination. Like so many other British colonial contraptions designed to fail, separation is likely inevitable, and it is just. The time is now. Nigeria is at a crossroads. It will become either a peaceful, prosperous ally or a massive launchpad for global jihad. There is no going back to the status quo. If the world turns away after this unprecedented scrutiny, the backlash will be bloody and absolute. The window is closing. We must call this what it is and intervene now, or the current genocide will grow and draw more innocent blood, not just there, but here in the United States. Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the talk. I just felt I should share that video on my channel. Hope you can make something of it. I have something like a surprise for those of you who have been on our sister channel. You probably would have watched it, but if you have not, I'm inviting you to watch this very short, uh, yeah, very short introduction.
It is the 13th day of September 1963, and Obafemi Awolowo stands to deliver his allocutus before Justice Sodeinde Sowemimo. It is generally accepted that a convicted criminal like himself will make a plea for leniency as the learned judge passes judgment on him, not Obafemi Awolowo. He stood defiantly before the court, and with many of his supporters weeping and mourning in the courtroom, he told the nation that the judgment just passed on himself and his colleagues would lead the country to utter darkness. The learned judge is not the third. He sentenced the former premier of the western region of Nigeria to 10 years in prison with hard labor. These documentaries.
All right, so that is our third part of the Awolowo series. I want to encourage that you go to Text and Publishing History and watch that. We have about 7 videos, 7 biographies we've published. Please go and check them out. I think it's 8. We've done 5 series on Awolowo. Then we did on Victor Banjo. Then we did Amadou Bello. And the last one we did was Iransi. No, yeah, we've done Iransi, and then we've done Kaduna in Zogo. So go to our channel. Just put in Text and Publishing on YouTube, and you will see it there. There is such a thing as the moral fabric of a nation. It is essentially the sum total of what the people of that country do. This moral fabric differs from place to place in a country, but there are always a grand total manner people from the outside world see the country. When Donald Trump called Nigeria a shithole country, a lot of good Nigerians were offended by that statement. But they forget that the world sees Nigeria as a country that God has blessed with petrodollars, but also as a country that has wasted most of that money on years of bad governance, corruption, and pure incompetence. So that the moral fabric of this country could safely be summed up as greed, covetousness, fraud, corruption, and so much that is negative. It is possible for the moral fabric of a country to improve. It will begin with bringing wholesale changes to the way the people of that country think. It might require that a whole generations of Nigerians even die off while a new generation emerges. What is very clear to young men and women today, particularly young Nigerians in their 30s, is that the generation of Nigerians that have gone ahead of them have failed this country. Wole Soyinka said it himself. These people cannot be imitated. So, these people are trying, the young people are trying to chart out a new course for themselves. As they do this, I wish to remind them of the biblical truth that righteousness exalts a nation. We hope to show in our broadcast on this channel that biblical truths of work, hard work, generosity, entrepreneurship, and trust were the building blocks with which countries like the United States of America, Canada, and Europe were built. If we must stem the tide of japa to these Western countries, we would not only have to teach our young people these principles of righteousness, we must also live out these principles before them. So that they will not just they will not just have the doctrine taught to their hearts, they will also have worthy examples to emulate. Text and Publishing Religion is a channel that is committed to not just teaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, we are also focused on living it out. We hope that our content will encourage viewers to see religion in a positive light, especially the Christian religion. We hope that we can return to history and learn from our fathers who have gone by and then imitate their faith. We hope to shed light on the ills of society and also provide solutions to these problems. And most of all, we hope that our viewers will encounter the gospel of Jesus Christ in our content, know God for themselves, become positive influences in their places of work and environment, and together we can all change this country for the better. My name is Deji Yesufu. I'm reaching you from the city of Ibadan. I pastor Providence Reformed Baptist Church. If you want to know more about our church, please send me an email at ninjareform at gmail.com. Okay, and I'll let you know more about the church. By God's grace, next week I will be coming again with another broadcast as we talk to you about religion and how religion can bring positive influence upon our community. We believe with all our heart, in fact, we can make this the theme of our broadcast, that righteousness can exalt a nation. I want to thank you for hanging out with us. If you were not with us from the beginning, please, at the end of the broadcast, watch this all over again. Share our videos if you're reaching us from YouTube. Subscribe to our channel and our channel on Facebook. Thank you. Good night. Have a good night rest and all the best in the new week at work and at school. You're in school.